Hey, what's up everyone? Before we get started, I'd like for you to ask yourself, who is your favorite superhero? This is the same question that I asked the members of this channel's Discord, but I also asked why their favorite superhero is their favorite. My goal was to look at all of the responses and find commonalities between them to answer the question, why is our favorite superhero our favorite over all other characters? I received a lot of very detailed and personal responses to this question, some of which we will go through today, to get a better understanding of why others chose their hero. My goal for this video is to analyze the psychological process of how we pick a particular hero and why that hero sticks with us so deeply. I also hope that this video will help you to better understand yourself through the hero that you have selected as your favorite, but without further ado, let's get started and see how we select our heroes. The first thing I noticed in the responses I received was that the vast majority of people stated that they discovered their favorite hero at a young age, typically somewhere between 5 years old and their early teens. The most common medium that respondents mentioned were the various Marvel animated TV shows, the most popular of which being Spiderman and the X-Men, but other mediums listed included video games and movies like Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and of course the MCU. There are definitely plenty of other examples and they vary, especially when you consider different generations. For instance, newer generations will undoubtedly find their favorite hero in the MCU or other big roster Marvel games. Here are some examples that were written in by Discord users. From user Melodic Detective, in any Marvel or X-Men game I always choose Storm first. My dad taught me to read with X-Men comics and Aurora stood out to me. From Warpet92, Carol Danvers is kind of the reason I got into Marvel. I played Ultimate Alliance 1 and just gravitated towards her. From iCannibalistic, for me it's Gambit. I kinda latched onto him as a kid for God only knows why. Probably me watching old episodes of the X-Men show and the new X-Men series that were coming out at the time. From Wolverine has been my favorite fictional character ever since I was 7 years old. From the second I watched the first episode of the X-Men animated series, I have been a Wolverine guy. From Thanos, the first time I saw our Lord and Savior, King Thanos, holy be thy name, was in the Marvel Superheroes War of the Gems game for the SNES in 1996. I was 9 years old. There are many other examples beyond this, but I think you get the point. Now, I also want to point out that not everyone's favorite character is based on their childhood selection. However, I think that we all had some sort of childhood hero, but that can change over time. From the quotes I just read, it's clear that their childhood heroes have stuck with them throughout their lives, but for some of us, our selection is ever changing. If I were to use myself as a brief example, my favorite character as a kid was Batman due to the animated series. Throughout my life into early adulthood, I was a huge Batman fan, but over time I realized I didn't relate to him as much as I originally thought I did, and started to gravitate towards other characters. Currently, my favorite character is Iron Fist from Marvel, ever since I started to look into his character from the comics, and something just really resonated with me. But my point is that our favorite characters can change, as we do. So whether you found your favorite superhero as a child or more recently, there seems to be a common path towards a hero becoming your favorite. We talked quite in depth about a hero being shown to us as a child, but many fictional characters are shown to us weekly. So what sets certain heroes apart for us? Respondents often reported that they originally gravitated towards the design of a character and their powers first, much like how we choose potential dates on Tinder. If we think a certain character looks cool, and it piques our interest, then we'll be more willing to invest time into that character and learn more about them. Once we are drawn to a particular hero through their look, powers, gameplay, style, etc., we then invest more time into learning more about them. Maybe we play as them more in a game and read their backstory, or delve into comics that feature that character and we learn more about their personality, or we continue with the show they are in that teaches us more about them. Whatever the case may be, we are willing to spend more time with this character, which inevitably causes us to learn more about them. And I think this is often the breaking point where characters are differentiated as either just cool characters or our favorite characters. Discord user LAC wrote in his experience, and I think it illustrates this idea well. Captain America Steve Rogers. Originally, I did not like Captain America at all. To me, he was just a lame and goofy patriotic superhero. I started liking Captain America again in the first Marvel Ultimate Alliance game. His playstyle made me a fan. Superficially, of course, since what I liked about him in that game had very little to do with him as a character. It was not until later on when I read the Civil War comic when I became a fan of Steve Rogers as a character. After that came the MCU and Chris Evans' excellent portrayal of Steve Rogers. It made me a huge fan. Soon after came the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon, and it only strengthened my love for the character. I like LAC's post here a lot because it shows how his appreciation for Captain America started off superficially, but started to grow as he spent more and more time learning about the character. Of course, just because we spend a lot of time with a character doesn't mean they will be our favorite. we have to be able to relate to them on a personal level, which is what I would like to discuss next. The vast majority of people who wrote in stated that their favorite character acted in a similar way to themselves. I have a post from Discord user Enchiridion that I think displays this pretty well. My favorite hero that I immediately rushed towards playing as in Ultimate Alliance was Doctor Strange. I'm a huge fan of his story and his personal growth because it kind of mirrors my own. Arrogance, ambition, and stubbornness are the three things I related to the most. I used to feel like no one could tell me anything and that I was right 99% of the time, until I wasn't, and I had to learn how to stop distracting myself from my own emotions and trying to prove I was the best just to put on a show for others. Once I found my core group of friends who liked me for me, I was able to open up to other people's viewpoints, ideals, and ultimately developed empathy on a level where I thought I never would achieve. To go beyond this idea, not only do our favorite heroes tend to have similar personality types to ourselves, but I think aspects of these heroes are models of what we strive to become. Discord user Warpet sums up this idea pretty well. Warpet originally stated to me that two of his favorite heroes were Captain Marvel and Beast based on their personality traits. I asked him if these personality traits were ones that he saw in himself already, or if they are ones that he wishes to improve upon. His answer is as follows. It's a bit of both. I'd like to think that I'm as smart or as witty as Beast, or as strong-willed as Carol, but I'm not anywhere close to that level, so they're characters that I'd like to be more like. Superheroes are often perceived as the best versions of ourselves, so it makes sense that we would gravitate towards heroes that are similar to us as role models, since it makes the goals we have seem more achievable. But by far and away the most important aspect of relating to a character seems to be shared life experiences. If a hero has gone through struggles that we have gone through, we are much more likely to relate to them on a deeper level and create a long-term bond with that character. Seeing a character struggle like us and make it through those struggles can be incredibly motivating and inspirational. To better explain what I mean, I want to share a few of the posts I received from the community. From Mr. Stark, favorite hero poll, Ironman, especially RDJ's portrayal of the character in the movies. I've struggled a lot with anxiety in the past, and seeing Tony Stark go through that same thing in the movies and let that drive him to help people, like in Iron Man 3, made me feel like I could do the same. Transfer all of that worry and anxiety into planning and purpose. The character of Tony Stark has had a huge impact on my life. I'm now in my second year of engineering because when I saw the first Iron Man movie as a 10-year-old kid, I thought, that's what I want to do, and I've only grown more attached to the character ever since. From Karma Code. I've loved Psylocke since I was very young. My father got me into X-Men when I was a kid. The animated series was my first exposure to them. As I grew older, I realized that their struggles were the same as mine. Being gay, I had struggled a lot with my identity and had to defend who I was even when I was struggling learning who I am. Psylocke, Betsy, had to go through a long road to find self-acceptance since she was body-swapped, an alien in her own skin. I related to that struggle myself, and that's kind of how she became my favorite. I also like studying people, so there are times I wish I was psychic and to where I could read minds, or drift away into the astral plane. Also, purple has always been my color. From Ellie. My favorite heroine of all time is Susan Storm Richards. I love that even after losing her parents and having to practically raise Johnny alone, she never used it as a crutch. She drew from the strength of the family she had remaining and carried that into her own marriage and children. She's also constantly being underestimated as a damsel or weak, which is the complete opposite of what she is. She wants to be seen as an equal and has shown disgust when being pitied or talked down to, which I relate to because I've been independent since I was 18, not by choice, and I've only wanted to be seen in that regard and nothing less. From Wolverine. Wolverine has been my favorite fictional character since I was 7 years old. I was always the smaller kid who got picked on for being nerdy and liking comic books and pro wrestling. From the second I watched the first episode of X-Men the animated series, I have been a Wolverine guy. I love that he was small but fierce and didn't take any shit from anyone. As a kid, I just loved his attitude and wanted to be like him. I joined my high school's wrestling team and learned how to defend myself 100% because I wanted to be like Wolverine and Bret Hart and never have to be afraid of anyone. As I got older, I became a pro wrestler and became a smaller guy in a big man's world, so I really started relating even more. I found myself having to stand up for myself against way bigger dudes, but I always had the same, what would Wolverine do policy. I can honestly say that I never made an effort to try and act like him, I just ended up being cut from the same cloth and developed into someone as a man that had some of the same traits. I relate to him, and that is why he has been my all-time favorite for the past 28 years. Fun fact, I have only used him in every video game he has been in for all of those 28 years. From Ali Rashid. Ever since I was like 5, I had a connection to Spiderman like most kids did. That connection never really died out like I thought it would once I reached high school. When MCU Spider-Man came out and it showed me how even a superpowered smart dude like Peter can feel vulnerable and alone, it made me realize it's alright to feel something and not let people's reactions affect how you are. When I saw his bond with Tony, it really strengthened the whole idea that some people can be family even if they aren't related. Even though he has had a hard life and traumatic past, he still has hope and enough to go out as Spider-Man every day. That's dedication. Also, he uses humor as a coping mechanism, which I can also say I've done before. The whole idea is that he wants to fit in, but it's kinda hard with his situations. I went through similar issues of fitting in during high school, which is why I can relate to him so much. From Beefcake. My favorite character and the one I lean towards the most is, and always will be, Nico Minoru of The Runaways. From the first time I read the comic, I always thought she was cool and badass. She was goth, she had magic, and a cool staff that casted spells. But as I got older and continued to reread the series, I realized that she reflected more than just that. With this new revival of The Runaways in 2017, we get to see much more of how the events of her past have impacted her and caused her a lot of anxiety and depression, to the point she prefers to just be alone, away from her other family members, the Runaways, until she is forced to be with them and once again shown to be the mother figure and group leader when thrust into it. Even at this time, she is still trying to figure out who she is as a person and how she belongs. To see a character that I loved go through heartache, loss, depression, anxiety, and confusion about their own life made me feel like what I was going through was something I could get through just like she did. She struggled with her identity, with her magic, and parents being evil. I struggled with the fact I was gay and everyone in my family hated gay people. I escaped into their world and found something special in Nico Minoru. From user Melodic Detective. In any Marvel or X-Men game, I always choose Storm first. She's a natural leader who adapts to any situation. I've admired her my entire life. Plus, she's one of, if not the most significant black women in comics. Black women are real-life heroes and we don't get to see them be superheroes enough. From Herc0387. If I had to choose, I would say it would be Spider-Man. When I was a young lad, the first thing that got me into comics and superhero lore was watching Spider-Man the animated series. Seeing how Spider-Man was just a kid from New York City, me being born in the Bronx, I instantly was like, he's almost just like me. He swung around New York City kicking ass and taking names, but he would also get beat up but would never quit fighting. As I got older, I started to follow his backstory more in the comics, understanding the storyline of Gwen Stacy and also understanding that he lost someone that was super important to him at a very young age. That made it more relatable to me because I too lost someone important to me when I was 13. So being able to have someone to relate to me on that level and still be able to keep his calm and focus was something that I felt like if he could do it, so could I. Herc's response here was interesting to me because it sparked a question I had regarding why some heroes stick out to us over others. Herc stated that Spider-Man is important to him because Spider-Man will often get beaten but will never quit fighting, and Spider-Man lost someone to him at a young age. My initial reaction was that sounds a lot like Daredevil. He gets knocked down a lot but makes a point to always get back up. Daredevil was also orphaned at a very young age. So I asked Herc, why Spider-Man and not Daredevil? And here is his response. You're right, you would think that Daredevil would be a similar situation as me, however, Spider-Man was the first comic that I saw. I didn't know anything about Daredevil and the Defenders till much later, and by that point, Spider-Man already took such a strong grasp of me. Looking back at it now, I would probably still choose Spider-Man over Daredevil. Spider-Man just appealed to me as a teenage kid with superpowers. Daredevil to me was just a regular guy with heightened senses and awesome martial arts skills. Herc's response here is interesting to me, and I think it further reinforces how much our childhood heroes play a role in our lives. Not that Herc should be more into Daredevil, it's clear Spider-Man speaks to Herc in a way that Daredevil doesn't. Also, just a side note, I think it's interesting that Herc seems to prefer heroes that are more superpowered in nature, because I've always preferred heroes that were more human in nature, like Black Widow and Hawkeye. This is another preference I see split amongst the community, but one we won't go into detail with today, but I think it's fun to bring up and speculate on. But yeah, there are many more posts like the ones I've just read, but I think these sum up the points that I am trying to make, and that is that our favorite characters often resonate on a deeper level than we may have realized initially. I just want to use one last quote from RockX Hunter that I think is good to wrap up on. In regards to Spider-Man, Rock states, I respect Stan Lee and Steve Ditko for creating such a realistic character, because without Spider-Man, I don't know where I'd be in life right now, honestly. I doubt Lee, Ditko, and anyone else involved with developing characters at Marvel knew just how important some of these characters would be to fans, and how impactful these characters could be in their lives. These characters will undoubtedly continue to influence the lives of fans for years to come, and I'm very thankful for that. And I hope that this video and these posts from viewers help to illustrate why superheroes are so important to many fans, and how even the most obscure characters can have a very passionate fan base. Reading these posts from everyone who offered to share has given me a better understanding and appreciation for characters that I might not have spent much time looking into otherwise, and I hope it has done the same for you. At the beginning of the video, I asked you to think of your favorite character. I asked this in hopes that by hearing the journeys of others and finding their favorite character, it would help you to discover your journey and the reasons why your favorite character is important to you, even if you may not think it is. I think you can learn a lot from who someone picks as a favorite character, including ourselves. It doesn't even have to be comic book related. We project so much of ourselves onto our favorite characters without even realizing it. So much so that it can be difficult to realize the reasons why your favorite hero is your favorite. It can take a lot of deep introspection to come to these realizations, and I often find myself trying to figure out the same thing. My hope is that by analyzing your favorite hero and how they reflect back to you and your personality, you'll be able to understand yourself a little bit better in the process. I know it has helped me come to realizations about myself, and from the posts we've seen today, I think others have felt the same way. You don't have to post your story in the comments if you don't feel comfortable with that, but I am interested to know if you relate to the aspects that I discussed in this video today, and if you've had a similar journey to discovering your favorite hero, or if you have any differing theories or opinions. This video wasn't the most scientific in nature, but I think it has been interesting exploring the potential psychology behind how we choose our favorite characters and what it means to us. I'd especially like to talk more about those who prefer villains and anti-heroes over superheroes, because I think there are some similarities and some differences. Unfortunately, I didn't get enough responses to really go in-depth on anti-heroes and villains, but maybe we can explore that in a separate video. I also had a lot of fun learning from the community in order to make this video, and I'd love to do more, so if you'd like more videos similar to this one, definitely let me know. It can be as simple as giving a like on the video. I don't like asking for likes on videos. I think you'll do it if you genuinely enjoy the video, but in this case, it's really all I have to go off of to determine if people are interested in the subject, besides comments, of course. Also, a very big thank you to everyone on Discord who chose to participate, and all of you who were willing to let me read your posts in the video. It has been a tremendous experience learning more about you, and I appreciate you being so open with your personal thoughts and feelings. But I think we will end the video here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.